Okay. We're going. Okay. Siobhan said she can edit, so this is a good thing. Okay, thank you guys for coming today. We're going to talk about time management, which is an issue for all of us. So making more of your time, time management and study skills for college success. And we're going to acknowledge that we got this from the Student Success Center at Louisiana State University. Good thing you can edit, Siobhan. All right, now this isn't working. I love technology.
Social work?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, no
I'm
worries.
busy fighting with my future mother-in-law. I'm so scatterbrained right
You're okay.
now. So are you senior, sophomore,
Freshman.
freshman?
Okay, let's see. Gotta love technology when it works. Okay, that's on. Jack, we're frozen.
You're frozen.
We're freshmen.
Oh, Jack, it's you. You brought me good luck. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
You're being
What's this
recorded.
shit?
Okay.
Shit?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Thank you. Okay, Siobhan, edit all that out. All right, well, thank you guys for coming today. We're going to talk about making the most of your time, and we're going to acknowledge Louisiana State University for this PowerPoint. How to know if you need some help with this? Do you tend to procrastinate? Is your motto better late than never, or do you wish you were more organized? If any of those things apply to you, then this is a great workshop for you. Time management is life management. So if you're managing your time, you're managing your life. I love this quote. It says, the allocation of time is unbiased and without prejudice. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. No one gets any more time, no one gets any less time. It's what we do at that time. So things we're going to talk about is how time management is unique to each of you, and then we're going to examine a three-step approach for time management. College and high school are very different from each other. In college, you are expected to think at a higher level. You have to process a lot more information in a much shorter amount of time. You'll find yourself in high-pressure situations. You have some meticulous professors that you have to please, and you have a wide range of distractions. But on the other hand, you have less structure in your life. There are no teachers reporting to your parents if you don't come to school. Your incentives are different in college for rewards and financial incentives for a job at the end. There is no supervisor helping you balance out your workload, no teacher saying this is due. There are many people making demands on your time, and you have studying demands. So let's figure out where your time is going. Take the number of units that you have. So how many hours are you enrolled in? Write that in the square. Then multiply that by 2, because we know for every hour of class you have, you should spend approximately 2 hours studying. So the number of credits you're enrolled in times 2. Then add the number of hours of class that you have. So in other words, if you're in a 3-hour class, multiply that by 2, that's 6 hours, then add the 3 hours back to it. That's 9 hours a week that you need to devote to studying. If you're in 12 hours, 12 times 2 is 24, add the 12 to get 36. Now, if you look at the right-hand side of this slide then, you've got your answer for the number of hours you should be spending on studying. Now add in the number of hours you work a week. So if you have a job outside of school, put an average for the number of hours that you work. Add to that the number of hours you spend on clubs, organizations, anything you're actively involved in on campus, how many hours per week you might devote to that. And then the final thing we're adding is the number of hours you spend doing other things. If you're in a relationship with someone, you have to devote time to that relationship. If you're in community service organizations, not on campus, but out in the community, if you routinely go to church, you routinely serve on a board, anything that you routinely do, if you volunteer somewhere, add that in. And that is your grand number, your grand total of number of hours that you have a commitment a week. Now the question becomes, I have all these things to do, how am I managing this? Okay, so here are 3 things that you need to remember when it comes to managing your time. And the first one is set your goals. Set them big. Allow yourself to dream. Don't limit yourself. What are your goals for your life? And we'll talk about different kinds of goals in a little bit. The second step is you have to come up with some organizational tools and integrate those into your schedule. And we'll talk about a variety of tools. And then the third one is you've got to come up with some study strategies and implement those. So we've got goals, we've got tools, and we've got strategies. We're going to talk today about being proactive with your time instead of reactive. People that are proactive have a plan in place. People that are reactive wait for something to happen and then deal with it. So this screen says, what are you doing with your dash? You're born in a certain year. You're going to die sooner or later in your year. The dash that's in between those years, how are you spending your dash? So here you guys are closer to the birth end than probably I. Where are you at today? And what are you going to do from now to the end? So we've got different kinds of goals that we need to set. First, we've got our short-term goals. Those are things like, what am I hoping to accomplish this week, this month, this semester, even just today, even this afternoon? What am I hoping to accomplish before this day ends? Those are your short-term goals. Then you have some mid-range goals, which are usually 2 to 5 years. So where do I see myself in 2 years? Where do I see myself in 5 years? Probably within 5 years you'll have your degree and you'll be entering into that phase of your life. And then you've got your lifetime goals. What are the things that I hope to accomplish? If time and money were no object, what would I accomplish? So you should have all kinds of goals, some really short-term ones, some mid-range type goals, and then over my course of my lifetime, what do I hope to accomplish? We need to address some myths about goals that we need to dispute. And the first one is, you should not edit or alter your goals. Of course you should. Goals are living, breathing things. They're going to change. What you wanted to be when you were 4 is probably not what you want to be now. And when you're my age, you'll still be saying, what is it I want to do with the rest of my time? The second myth is that you have to achieve perfection. Let it go. None of us are perfect. We're going to shoot for a goal. We're going to come up short sometimes, and we're going to try again. Let that perfection go. The third myth is that maintenance of the status quo is not an acceptable goal for a period of time, and that's a myth. We all have these goals we want to get to, but it's okay to take those resting times. You can't always be moving toward that project. Life happens, and there are times where we just have to be resting on our status quo. And then we get re-energized and we move toward that goal again. And then the fourth myth is that achievement of goal is based on luck. There is no luck. Your luck is what you're making of it. So people that think, well, I just got lucky, or no, you really worked for it and that's why you achieved it. Or you didn't work for it and that's why you didn't achieve it. Okay, so we talked about setting goals. The second thing was talking about some organizational tools. So that's what these screens are going to be. There are different kinds of tools. There are fixed schedules, there are planners, and there are to-do lists. So we're going to look at each one of those separately. Under fixed schedules, you can have week at a peak, or you can have semester at a peak. Under to-do list, you can have today, you can have for a week, you can use sticky notes, and we'll look at each of those. Okay, so here's your week at a peak schedule. You take 1 week, the days at the top, the times down the side. This stops at 3 to 4 p.m., but I would encourage you to take it all the way to 1 to 2 a.m. because sometimes students are still up studying. And so you've got your times on your left and your days on the top, and you just go in and you put everything in that's a repeat activity for you. So you can see this student They put their class schedule in, it's in blue. They put their activities in, they work Monday through Friday, 2 to 5, 2 to 4. They built in time for exercise, they put biking on Saturdays, and then this particular person goes to church on Sundays. So that's a week at a peak. A semester schedule comes in handy for planning those long-term projects. How many of you have a research paper you might have to do in a class? You can't wait till December 1st to start that research paper. So the semester schedule allows you to go in and plug things into your schedule that are coming up. So on here you see I have a quiz on this day, here's my Spanish test 1, there's Dad's birthday on there, here's where a paper is due, here's a math exam. So you're looking long range over the semester and plugging things in that are coming up. Okay, what kind of planner do you need? There are different kind of planners, and you may use one and you may use all three, actually. Think about the number of appointments that you have a week. And when I say appointments, the classes that you go to, or the standing appointments, or the committees you're on, or the activities that you do. So if you have 21 or more different unique appointments or meetings, so if you're enrolled in 5 different classes, that's 5 appointments right there. If you have more than 21, you probably need a daily schedule because you have lots of things to do on a daily basis. If you have 7 to 21 different unique things that you do, you might be able to get by with a weekly schedule. If you have fewer than 7 unique things, you might be able to get by with a monthly schedule. I think about my mom who routinely doesn't have that many different things to do. She could get by with a monthly. Jar of rocks I did not bring. I thought you've probably seen it. But basically, pick those big things in your life and put those in the jar first. Then you pick the things that are not as big as the jar or as the big rocks, but they're still important. Then you add the little pebbles, and then you can still pour water in. And the point is, you got to put the big rocks in your jar first. So think about if you have a research paper due, and it's got 5 components. So your big rocks would be every month, or maybe every 3 weeks, I better complete one of the big rock items. Or let's say in math class, you're only going to have 2 tests. He's not going to take daily grades. So your grade is completely reliant on 2 tests and that's it. So those are your 2 big rocks for math, is that midterm and that final. Make sure you're taking care of the big rocks first. Also, don't forget the big rocks are your relationships. Don't ignore those. Okay, when should I use a to-do list? Well, how do you organize your day and your week? How you organize yourself determines if you need a task orientation or if you need a time orientation. So if you do things like this, you make a list. Monday, I've got a math assignment due. I need to read these pages in English. I need to mail this package, buy stamps. Tuesday, I need to do these things. Then you're more task-oriented to do this, do this, do this, do this, based on the day. However, if you're more time-oriented, you go back again to this daily schedule with the times on the left and the items on the right. What are some advantages you see of the task, this one, compared to the time?
You can fit more information on the one with the task than
Okay.
you can on the time.
Okay? The task is very specific to that day. What's the time looking at? Is it just looking at one day?
Time.
Yeah. It's a whole week, so it's more focused on the week, and so notice that they put time actually in there for their meals, and they put time in there to study, and I love at the bottom Sunday night at 4, we're going to chill out. And that's important. You need to have downtime. It just should not dominate your schedule. You could actually use a combination of both. This is more of a long-term, the time's more long-term, whereas task is more of a short-term. These are the things I've got to get done today and tomorrow. Okay, so that's one way. Anyone use sticky notes in here? Cody, I saw you had a sticky note today. So sticky notes are a great way to remember to do things that are coming up immediately. Another thing you can do is a master to-do list. You can see on this person's, they've divided it by subjects, biology, English, geography, and math. And so they've listed chapters 4, 5, and 6, and then they suggest put some dates on that. Go ahead and look at the syllabus that the course instructor gave you and put your dates on it when they're due. This is a really important point. Did you know that a daylight hour is equivalent to 1.5 times of a nighttime hour? It's the same 60 minutes, but what do you think is the difference between studying in the day versus studying at night? Why do you get more bang for your buck during the day?
Paying more attention.
Paying more attention, good. Maybe you're a little fresher. 9 o'clock at night, you're pretty tired. Your brain may not be functioning as well. You've had a busy day. So remember to study during the day. You're getting a better bang for your buck. Okay. Now this screen talks about setting some intermediate deadlines. So those would be not the things that are happening this week or maybe even next week. Those could be more things like, oh, I've got to go get my vision checked. I need to change the oil in my car. Things we don't do necessarily frequently, but they're still important nonetheless. So you can do things like either write them in your planner, put them on a sticky note, or put them on that daily to-do list. Now we're going to talk about the third component, using the tools. You're going to spend a lot of time studying. Let's find some tools to help us. Okay. The continuous process of learning. If you want to ace the test, you're not having a test, let's say, till midterm. So how am I going to remember everything from the first 8 weeks in order to put it down on that midterm test? Well, this is called the continuous process of learning, and research shows it almost guarantees you an A if you'll do these things. So step 1 or phase 1, preview the information. So before you get to biology class, read through that section to see what it is we're going to be talking about. It's making a connection to your prior learning. What do I already know about this topic? What am I going to get new out of this? So preview it before you go in. Phase 2, go to class. Listen actively, take notes, have discussion, ask questions. So now you've got some prior knowledge you've read about and connected to. Now you're making more connections with the instructor. Phase 3, as soon as class is out, that night before you go to bed, just reread through your notes. That's it. It might take you 5 minutes. That's a critical step though. Phase 4 talks about incorporating intense study sessions, which we'll talk about. And the biggie at the bottom, once a week, go back and read all your notes. Why do you think that works? So you previewed it, you went to class, you participated in the discussions, then you reread your notes that day, within that day. You had some study sessions along the way, but most important, once a week you pulled all those notes back out. What makes that work? Why does it work to reread once a week? Think about your brain cells and how you learn. How'd you learn to ride a bike? Did you just start riding the bike the first time you tried?
Trying with little steps and then just getting to where you can do like, the whole bike ride.
Absolutely. You did little steps at a time, but you did them repetitively, right? Day after day after day. So what you're doing by reading your notes that night is you're making connections again. Your brain, your synapses are connecting, and you're refreshing your memory. And then once a week what you're doing, it's like that repetitive motion of riding the bike every day until you get it. It's getting from your short-term memory. If you do it in class one day and read your notes one day, it's just in your short-term memory. If once a week you review those notes, it moves from your short-term memory file to your long-term memory file. So that's why 8 weeks later, you can remember this stuff for the midterm because you've read it now 8 times, not just one time when we had it and put it away. And that's called the continuous process of learning. And research says you'll make at least a B if you'll do that step. Okay, we talked about the intense study session. So let's say you need to sit down and you need to study. And here's how you need to break it up. So the first 2 minutes is, let's say you have an hour. The first 2 minutes, you just set your goals. Here's what I hope to accomplish. I hope to be able to remember the stages of mitosis, or whatever it is you're doing, or Piaget's theories, or stages of development. Then for 40 minutes, you're going to read back through this stuff. Now remember, you've read it 8 times now by then. But you're going to do certain things, like you're going to use a highlighter maybe. How many of you use highlighters? Anyone like to highlight? Yeah, I'm a highlighter. Make doodles in the margins, because when you're making the doodle with your hand, the impulse is going from your hand up to your brain, and it's forming a memory because of the motion of your hand. Okay? Create a mnemonic. That is Every Good Boy Does Fine for the keys on the piano, or add, subtract, multiply, divide for the stages of math. Any of those kinds of things, those are mnemonics. Create a map. What's a mind map? Ever heard that phrase, mind map? Mind map. Okay, so that's one way of taking notes, is to say 3 branches of government. A, judicial. B, legislative. Okay, like that, and then you go outline form. A mind map says you draw pictures instead. So you draw a big cloud in the middle that says 3 branches of government, and then you draw clouds coming off of it. It uses the other half of your brain. So going linear note taking uses one side of your brain. Drawing pictures uses a different side of your brain, helps it stay in there longer. So you've done that for 40 minutes. You've got to get up and take a break for 10 minutes, walk away from it. Why do you think you have to walk away? What's walking away from it do for you? I'll tell you. Here's a great quote. The mind can absorb what the bottom can't endure. If you've sat for a long, long time, oxygen is no longer flowing as freely through your body. So by getting up, you're getting oxygen back into your system. You're moving around. Drink some water. It doesn't say that, but do that. And what that's doing is helping your body, your brain, to retain this information longer, because you've got the oxygen now flowing through your body better. Come back in 5 minutes and just do a quick review, and then you're done. Okay, so that's the study session. Here's the most important thing that we said. Once a week, read through all the entire notes together. So just one time a week, go review all of your notes. Guaranteed at least a B. Okay. The last thing we're going to talk about is, did you know that your thoughts can affect how you manage time? How would your own thoughts affect how you manage time? Any ideas on that? How does what I think about studying affect how I study? Yeah? Okay, let's see. All right. We all have those voices in our head, and this is a good thing, that self-talk that we use. And we have 3 different voices. The first voice that we have is that child voice. Think about back to when you were a child, and you just pretty much dealt in the presence. It's like, I want my toy now, I want to play now. You're not thinking about studying, you're not thinking about anything else, but you're living in the right now. So sometimes we all are childlike and we live in the right now. The second voice that you have in there is the adult voice. That's that voice in us that thinks about my past choices, my future consequences, that's rational, skills-based, thinks about reality. And then we have that critic voice in our head that says we're fearful, we worry about things that happened in the past, we worry about things that might happen in the future, and so we're not passive in what's happening right now because we're too worried about what did happen or what might happen. So we have to be careful when we're studying to not revert back to the child voice like, I'd rather Facebook than do my homework. That's the child voice. Or, it doesn't matter how often I study this, I'm just horrible at math and I can't do it. That's the critic voice in us. So we have to defeat the child voice and the critic voice and learn to stay in our adult voice while we're studying that I can do this, I'm competent, I'm capable, I know where to get help if I need it. All right. So what are some things we talked about today that you feel like will help you in managing your time? Some things maybe that you heard that you're already doing. What are you already doing that's helpful?
I have my planner set up, and I have, I'll just show you.
Okay. I see a sticky note.
Yep, this
Yeah.
is monthly, has daily things, and this is what needs to be done for the next day or the next class period.
So you have a monthly page, and then you turn it and you've got a daily page. Yeah, that's awesome. And I saw a sticky note. Cody, what are you doing already?
All right, well, my daily time schedule,
Okay.
and
So
then
this
I make
has
a to-do list as well.
Okay, daily, and then you have a to-do list.
Yes.
Okay. What'd you hear in here today maybe that was new you hadn't thought of before? Had you guys heard that the continuous cycle of learning, that if you reread your notes like immediately that day and then if you'll just do it once a week thereafter. Did you know that?
I've
Had you
heard it,
that?
but I haven't done it.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, there's actually research out there that actually proves that if you will just reread them once a week, then come test time, you make probably about a B at least, so.
I'm gonna do some of them, but I won't do all the cases.
And on the cycle of learning where it said that intense study time, where it said, set your goals in the first couple minutes and then spend 40 minutes studying. 40 minutes may be too long. Some of us, my rule is kind of like 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, I may not be absorbing as much and I need to get up and I need to move around, so. Okay, thank you guys for coming today. I appreciate it, and that concludes our time management. Okay, well that went a lot faster than I thought.
right.
America and Cody.